There is no manual for discipline, and if there was, your toddler probably already scribbled on it and lost it behind the couch. So we do our best, but some strategies that seem right, they actually backfire. I'm Dr. Mona, pediatrician and mom, and today I'm walking you through 7 common discipline mistakes and what to try instead, so you can parent with more confidence and fewer power struggles. Spanking or physical discipline. Let's start with the one that still stirs up a lot of debate, spanking. Some people say, well, I was spanked and I turned out fine, but here's the thing. Surviving something doesn't mean it was helpful. I also survived dial-up internet and jelly sandals doesn't mean I want to bring them back. Spanking might stop a behavior in the moment, but it doesn't teach long-term skills. It teaches submission, not understanding. A child who's spanked often stops because they don't want to be hurt, not because they understand what they did was wrong. That's how we raise kids who sneak, lie, or shut down because they're trying to avoid punishment, not grow from it. And research backs this up. A 2021 meta-analysis reviewing over 50 years of studies showed that spanking is linked to more behavioral problems, not fewer. Here's what spanking does teach: that fear equals control, that anger can be handled with violence, that bigger people get to use force to get what they want. And over time, that doesn't disappear. It shows up in how we handle conflict, set boundaries, respond to authority, and even raise our own kids. Spanked kids are more likely to hit others when they're upset because that's what was modeled. I'm mad, so I hit. Let's be clear, kids need boundaries, but fear doesn't have to be the tool we use to set them. So what can you do instead? Let's say your toddler throws their cup across the room like it's an Olympic sport. Instead of smacking or shouting, you could say, the cup is for drinking, not throwing. Now it's going away for a bit. That's a logical consequence. And when they're calm, you can add, looks like you were frustrated. Next time you can say help instead of throwing. Or show them what the cup is for. The cup is for drinking. Want to show me? And if they throw again, calmly remove the cup and repeat the boundary. You're teaching, not intimidating, guiding and not controlling. Because kids don't learn respect from pain, they learn it from being respected. Spanking may stop the behavior, but it stops the learning too. And when fear is the lesson, connection is the cost. I know as a society we can do better than I turned out fine when it comes to spanking. We can raise kids who thrive. Shame-based language. Phrases like, what's wrong with you? Or you always mess things up might slip out in frustration. But here's the problem. They don't just correct the behavior. They chip away at your child's identity. Imagine if your boss said, you're so bad at your job every time you missed a deadline. Would that motivate you or make you want to cry into your keyboard? Would that actually make you want to do better? Shame doesn't teach, it wounds. It doesn't guide, it shuts down. And over time, those words become a script kids carry into adulthood. I'm not enough. I mess everything up. Why even try? Here's what works better and what science backs up. Humans learn through connection and repetition, not humiliation. Children are wired to respond to positive reinforcement. They thrive when we catch them doing something right, not just correct them when they're doing something wrong. Thanks for putting your toys away. You worked so hard on that drawing. I noticed how you helped your sibling. That was so kind. Versus everything they aren't doing. Praise what you want to see more of. Child behavior grows where parental attention goes. If you want them to do more of something, give that behavior attention and recognition and not the non-preferred behaviors. And yes, kids need boundaries once again, desperately. But boundaries don't need to be wrapped in shame. They can be firm and loving. Instead of, you're so lazy, say, you're having a hard time getting started. Let's break it down together. This shift from labeling the child to labeling the behavior teaches accountability without destroying self-worth. Shame doesn't shape character. It distorts it. If we want our kids to thrive, we need to speak to the best in them, not the worst. Excessive yelling. We have all been there. I know I have. I am a recovering yeller or fiery person, but yelling is just not the way to parent, get through to kids, and frankly, how any adults should handle disagreements. Yelling is human, but when it becomes your go-to reaction, it doesn't teach, it overwhelms. And when kids feel overwhelmed, they don't learn better behavior, they shut down. From a psychological level, yelling is a form of verbal aggression. Constant yelling can cause kids to go into a fight, flight, or freeze mode. And when yelling is frequent or unpredictable, it disrupts secure attachment. Kids begin to walk on emotional eggshells, unsure of which version of their caregiver will show up. That unpredictability makes kids more anxious, more reactive, and less emotionally safe. They may stop listening not out of defiance, but because their nervous system is in fight, flight, or freeze mode. So what can you do instead? When you feel yourself ready to explode, hear how my volume changes. Lower your volume. When they go high, you go low. Don't yell, but you don't have to whisper. Bring the energy down with tone and body language. It forces your child to tune in instead of tuning out. Get low, eye level or even below theirs if possible. It's disarming and makes you more relatable, not more threatening by standing up and yelling orders. State what you see. You're upset because I turned off the iPad. This shows that you're tuned in, which can help de-escalate. Offer a simple choice. You can put your shoes on or I can help. You decide. This gives autonomy within a boundary. Use silence strategically. Sometimes saying nothing and just being present speaks louder than yelling or even speaking ever could. These are connection-based discipline tools. They lower defensiveness, build trust, and teach regulation because that's how kids actually learn to listen. When we raise our voice too often, our kids stop hearing our words and start fearing our tone. To be heard, sometimes you need to go quieter, not louder. Timeouts as isolation. To be clear, I don't recommend timeouts as a first-line strategy for discipline. I've only used it once with one of my children, and that was because I was emotionally drained and I needed a moment. Nothing wrong there. Are they always bad? No. But the way they're often used, that's where the real issue is. Too often, timeouts become isolation during emotional distress, a threat. Do you want a timeout? Punishment in unsafe ways like being put in the dark, outside in the cold, or left alone for too long. When used this way, timeouts don't teach regulation, they teach rejection. And for toddlers who are still figuring out what emotions even are, being sent away when they're overwhelmed just sends the message, you're too much right now. What kids really need in those moments? Not isolation, but connection. Try a time in instead. Your body needs a break. Let's sit together and read until we feel calm. It's not being permissive, it's teaching skills. Because kids can't self-regulate until they've had the opportunity to also co-regulate. If you want a deeper dive into when and how timeouts can be used effectively, I walk through it step by step in my Toddler and Tantrums course, including what to avoid and how to set limits without shame. Timeouts don't have to push kids away. They can be an invitation to grow emotional awareness together. And remember to take a time out yourself and make sure you subscribe to this channel so you don't miss more useful tips for child health, development, and parenting. Not following through on limits. This is hands down the most common mistake I see, especially with toddlers. And most parents don't even realize they're doing it. Let's look at some familiar moments. Example 1. Okay, I'm counting to 3. 1, 2, 2.5, 2 3/4. The moment you start stretching the count, your child learns this limit isn't real. I've got time. Example 2. If you hit your brother again, no screen time. They hit again, but the tablet stays on. Why? Because you're exhausted or you don't want another meltdown. They have now learned that this limit doesn't matter. Example 3. We're leaving the park if you don't listen. They don't listen, and you don't leave. We've all been there, but here's what's happening under the surface. When limits are inconsistent, kids push more, not less. They test because they're wired to seek clarity and predictability. If the boundary wobbles, they'll keep poking it until it either disappears or gets enforced in a moment of frustration. Lack of follow-through doesn't just lead to more defiance. It erodes trust, not just in you, but in the rules themselves. And over time, it turns your no into white noise. So what can you do instead? Be clear, calm, and consistent every time. And try this. When you throw the toy takes a break. That's the rule. Then follow through. No extra warnings, no theatrics. Or if you're not buckled up by the time I count to 3, I'll help you do it. 1, 2, then follow through with calm action. The goal isn't control. It's credibility and following through on boundaries that are important to you in that moment. Every time we don't follow through, we're training our kids to wait us out. But when limits are predictable, behavior becomes manageable and trust grows stronger. Don't make your kid think that parenting is a game of chicken and you're going to cave first, especially when it comes to important boundaries. Empty threats and bribes. If you don't stop crying, we're leaving the park. If you clean up, I'll give you a cookie. Sound familiar? Threats and bribes are tempting because they work temporarily. Kids learn to behave not because something makes sense, but because they want the reward or fear the consequence. And when there's no cookie or threat, the motivation vanishes. Over time, this can lead to more power struggles, less cooperation, unless something is in it for them. Kids who ask, "What do I get if I do this?" Here's the psychology. Kids develop internal motivation through repetition, connection, and clear boundaries, not through constant deal-making. And research shows that overuse of rewards can actually decrease their desire to do something just because it's right. Now, let's be real. One-offs are fine. You want to promise a lollipop for surviving a family photo shoot? Go for it. I have been there too. But these are tools, not your entire toolbox. So what works better long-term? Use routines and when and then statements. When we're done cleaning, then it's time for story time. Use natural consequences. If they leave a toy outside, say, well, if you don't pick up the toy, it may get ruined by rain or dirt. Praise effort and values. You worked hard on that puzzle. That shows focus. Save the cookie for dessert. They do not need that as a bribe. And skip the constant negotiating. Your child deserves to understand why behavior matters. And remember, if this resonates, hit that like button and subscribe to this channel and drop no more bribes in the comments if you started making this shift. Enabling behavior in the name of validation. Let's be honest, many of us were raised in households where feelings weren't really welcome. So as parents, we're trying to break that cycle. We want our kids to feel seen, heard, and safe expressing big emotions. That's beautiful. But here's the trap. In an effort to validate, some parents overcorrect and end up enabling behavior. They start to believe that if their child is still melting down, the validation must not be working, or worse, that now they have to give in. Let's be clear. Validation doesn't mean the feeling disappears. It means you acknowledge the feeling and still hold the boundary. Here's what this mistake can look like. You're upset that we have to leave the park. Okay, we can stay longer. You didn't want to brush your teeth? I get it. We'll just skip it tonight. You hit because you were mad. I know it's hard. And then there's no follow-up. Validation doesn't mean giving in, and it doesn't mean dragging it out either. You don't have to belabor it. Sometimes one calm sentence is enough. You're really upset the iPad is over. That makes sense. And it's still time to turn it off. You didn't want to wear that outfit. I hear you. We're wearing it today so we can leave on time. You were mad and you hit. I won't let you hurt someone. Let's take a break to calm down together. If the tantrum continues, you stay grounded. You don't add fuel by negotiating, rescuing, or giving up the boundary. Because here's the truth. Feelings are fleeting, but limits are forever. Validation isn't about fixing feelings. It's about staying present while holding the boundary with love. Discipline isn't about control. It's about connection. It's not about raising obedient kids. It's about raising thoughtful, emotionally secure future adults. You don't need to be perfect, but you do need to be intentional. The goal isn't to get it right every time. It's to keep growing, learning, and showing up with compassion and consistency. Because when discipline is rooted in respect and not fear, your child doesn't just behave better, they feel better, and they become better equipped to handle the world. If this video helps you rethink even one strategy, tap that thumbs up sign. It helps more parents find this information. Drop a comment. Which of these are you working on and which one surprised you the most? And please don't forget to subscribe for more real talk on parenting, child development, and how to raise emotionally healthy humans without losing your own sanity. We're not here to raise perfect kids. We're here to raise real ones with boundaries, love, and a whole lot of grace. I'll see you all next time.